Hello guys, today I want to talk about Laravel middleware, and I have 5 quick tips for you. Some of them you will probably know, some of them maybe not. And in this video I will not show my PHP storm, I will just show 5 random online resources which I found when thinking about various tips to share, and I grouped 5 tips into middleware section. So, tip number 1 is using multiple middlewares per one route or one route group. So typical example of using middleware is this: middleware auth assigned to route get or route group. But did you know you can use something like this? So you can assign multiple middlewares to the same route. And I recently encountered that in a question on Laracast. I decided over this Christmas downtime to get back to Laracast and maybe answer some questions. So one of the questions was this one: how to add one middleware into another middleware. So for example, you want to use auth middleware inside of another custom middleware. And technically you can do that, but a better solution, which I've posted here, is to use multiple middlewares per route. Second tip also comes from Laracast, but from a very old post that I've googled, with the thought that you can use this request variable quite heavily. So if you need to check something like route, URL, parameters and stuff like that. So 4 years ago in this example, Martin answered that you can request route ID, but also you can refer to the official Laravel documentation on the request object, where you can do something like request path, request is the URL, request route is, request URL, full URL with query without query method, and a lot of stuff like that. So this comes by default in any middleware as a parameter of request. So that's tip number 2. Tip number 3, a very short one, the one that I didn't even know actually and never really used, that you can reference the middleware not only by its short name, but the full class name. Then you would need to add that on top of your routes file. Maybe this is more convenient instead of registering the middleware in your kernel file and then having that shorter name and use that here. Maybe in some cases it's more convenient and readable to use the full class name. What do you think actually? Shoot in the comments below if you use short names or long names, class names for middleware. Tip number 4 is avoid eternal loops in middleware, and be careful with that. And this comes from another old Laracast post. So the question was why I'm getting the error of redirected you too many times. So keep in mind, if you have some global middleware, for example, check for user is enabled. Okay, you received that user is not enabled. You redirect back to some error page, and that error page should not contain the same middleware. So on that route get or route group, it should not have that middleware, or if you have that middleware registered globally, you can do something like this. It appeared, from what I remember, in 8 point something Laravel, so totally not Laravel 7 from what I remember. So you can have without middleware and then pass the class name. So if you have your middleware for all web requests, for example, or all API requests, but you need to exclude that one exception, this is how you can do it. And final tip number 5 is kind of philosophical, almost philosophical. All the middleware official documentation is referring to middleware being kind of a restrictor of something. So you either find some error and then abort or show some error page or something, or you just go for next request, right? But many people I've seen use middleware to set something, to set some value into the session, into the cache, into whatever. And for example, how we use that in our quick admin panel generator, if you view code for any of our panels, you can go to app http middleware. There's set locale middleware. I will zoom it in a bit. It is automatically called on all web requests and sets app set locale. And that language may come from request, from get request. For example, if someone wants to change the language visually, then it may come from the active session. Or if for some reason the session doesn't exist, which shouldn't be the case actually, then the language comes from the config. So in this case, middleware is not restrictive. It's actually just another layer of setting global variables for all the Laravel application to process later. That's it, 5 quick tips about middleware. Maybe you would add something else, some interesting middleware usage you have done in the past or you have seen in the past. Shoot in the comments below. And see you guys in other videos.